One morning, while sipping her coffee, she opened her phone and her breath caught. There it was, a photo of her husband, Daniel, with another woman. A cozy dinner. Wine glasses clinking. Captions full of inside jokes and hearts. The woman was tagged, Sophie Adams. Mara clicked the profile. Pictures of Sophie and Daniel filled the screen. Walks in the park, brunch dates, a weekend trip she hadn't known about. Her hands shook. That evening, Daniel came home late, tossing his keys like it was any normal day. "I saw everything," she said quietly. "You lied to me." He sank into the couch, rubbing his forehead. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. You were going to leave me without a word? I wasn't sure how to tell you. Sophie and I," he paused. "It just happened." "For how long?" 3 months. Mara's breath caught. 3 months? We were still sleeping in the same bed. "I know." She sat, holding back tears. "Why her?" "I don't know. She made me feel noticed. Like I mattered again." Mara's voice trembled. "I notice you. I love you." Daniel looked away. "I'm still in love with you, Daniel," she whispered. "I can't live without you." "I'm sorry." She reached for his hand. He pulled it away. "I need space," he said, standing. She stared at him, voice breaking. "You're really leaving?" He nodded. "I'll be staying at Sophie's for a while." That night, she collapsed onto their bed and sobbed until morning. Days blurred into each other like smudged ink on a water-stained page. Morning and night had no difference, just light and dark passing over the same quiet pain. Daniel had stopped answering her calls. At first, Mara tried to be reasonable. One missed call. Then another. He must be busy, she told herself. Maybe he's at work. Maybe his phone died. But then it became 12 calls. 15. 20. And still, nothing. She left messages. Desperate, cracked voice recordings that she regretted the moment she ended them. "Daniel, please. Just call me back. I don't understand. Can we talk?" The silence that followed was worse than anger. It was indifference. He came back only to grab more clothes. He wouldn't look her in the eye. Wouldn't explain anything. One night, she heard him moving through the hallway, stuffing a duffel bag. She rushed out in her pajamas. "Daniel, wait. Can we please just talk?" He didn't stop zipping the bag. "I'm your wife," she said, voice breaking. "We took vows. How can you just walk away?" He stood up, finally looking at her. But his eyes were empty. "I don't want to fight, Mara. This isn't working." Then he left. The door clicked shut behind him like a sentence ending. The house turned cold. Not because of the weather, but because of what was missing. His presence, even when it had been distant, had filled space. Now, there was only air and silence. His shirts still hung in the closet, lined up like soldiers waiting for orders. His shoes sat by the front door, untouched. She couldn't eat. Every bite tasted like sawdust. Even her favorite meals reminded her of him. What he used to say, how he'd reach over to steal food from her plate with a grin. One night, she sat on the floor of their closet, wrapped in one of his sweaters, sobbing so hard she gagged. Her cries echoed off the walls. "I don't know how to be alone," she whispered. "I don't know how to do this without him." She prayed, though she hadn't in years. She begged the ceiling, the walls, the shadows. "Please come back." There was only silence. Weeks later, something shifted. She woke up and realized he's not coming back. So she got up, washed her face, and made a list. Eat once a day. Breathe. She applied for a part-time job at a small tea and coffee shop nearby. The owner, Mrs. Kamara, a kind widow with sparkly eyes, hired her on the spot. "You're grieving," she said, handing Mara an apron. "But work heals." Mara nodded, grateful. One quiet afternoon, as golden sunlight spilled through the windows of the small tea and coffee shop, Mara wiped down the counter with slow, practiced movements. The bell above the door jingled softly. She looked up, and time seemed to pause for a moment. A man stepped inside. Tall, with broad shoulders and an easy posture. He wore a fitted black turtleneck, dark jeans, and a leather wristwatch that was subtle, but definitely expensive. His shoes were clean, his hair tousled in that deliberate kind of way. There was something about him, not just the way he looked, but the way he carried himself. Confident, but not arrogant. Calm, but alert. Like someone who had seen a lot of the world and wasn't easily shaken by it. He walked to the counter with a gentle smile. "Your tea," he said, "just saved my day." Mara blinked, surprised by the compliment. "Rough morning?" He exhaled through a small laugh. "Always. But the jasmine blend? Life-altering. I think I owe you my sanity." She chuckled. "Well, in that case, I should charge double." He grinned. "Fair." There was a pause, the kind that didn't feel awkward, just open. "I'm Elias," he said, extending a hand. She wiped hers on a towel before reaching out. "Mara." Their handshake lingered a second longer than necessary. His hand was warm, his grip firm but not forceful. When they let go, something unspoken hung in the air. "I just moved into town," he said, glancing around the shop. "Trying to find a rhythm. Some good tea seemed like a decent place to start." "Tea and rhythm," she said, raising an eyebrow. "Solid priorities." He nodded thoughtfully. "Actually, I'm looking for something else too. An assistant." She blinked. "An assistant?" "Here." He shrugged, amused. "I go where the good tea is. Also, I work remotely, and I'm building a small team for a new project. I need someone organized, efficient, reliable." Mara laughed, a little awkward. "You're recruiting at a tea shop?" Elias leaned against the counter. "Life's unpredictable. Some of the best people aren't found behind resumes, they're found behind counters." She tilted her head, suspicious. "That's either very charming or very rehearsed." "I'll let you decide," he said with a wink. He handed her a business card. Minimalist. Just a name, Elias Grant, and an email. "If you're interested," he said, "email me. No pressure." Before she could respond, he gave a small nod and walked out the door, leaving the scent of citrusy cologne in his wake. The next day, the bell jingled again. Mara was wiping the espresso machine when she looked up, and there he was. Same warm smile. Different jacket. "I meant it," he said. She blinked. "The assistant thing?" "Flexible hours. Mostly managing my schedule, responding to emails, helping coordinate meetings. And I pay well." She hesitated. "I'm not sure I'm qualified." "Do you own a phone?" "Yes." "Can you use a calendar?" "Yes." "Can you spell?" She gave him a look. "Seriously?" He shrugged. "That's more than half the battle." She laughed despite herself. "Why me?" Elias glanced at her, really looked at her. "You're calm. You listen. You notice things. And I like people who don't pretend to be something they're not." Her throat caught unexpectedly. "You don't know how much I've been pretending, just to keep breathing. I could use the distraction," she said softly, more to herself than to him. "Good." He slid a folder across the counter. "Part-time for now. Trial basis. No pressure." She took it, unsure of everything except the fact that, for the first time in a long time, something in her chest flickered. Or maybe curiosity. Either way, it was something other than pain. Let me know if you want to continue with her first few days working for Elias, how he starts to pull her out of her emotional shell, or the moment she realizes she's smiling again. Working for Elias felt easy. He was kind, professional, and surprisingly humble. They talked about music, books, life. She learned he owned a few successful tech businesses and had chosen this quiet town to escape burnout. They started texting in the evenings. Memes, jokes, thoughts. And slowly, it turned into late-night conversations about pain, healing, and trust. "You've been through a storm," he texted once. "So have you," she replied. He sent a heart emoji. One day, he asked her out, not as an employer, but as someone who couldn't stop thinking about her. "I know it's soon," he said. "But I like you, Mara. More than I've liked anyone in a long time." She smiled, tears brimming. "I like you too." Their first date was simple. A walk by the lake, barefoot in the grass, laughter echoing across the water. He held her hand like she was the most delicate thing in the world, but also the strongest. And for the first time in months, Mara smiled from her soul. Back at home, Daniel had become a ghost. He came and went at will. They barely spoke. He didn't ask where she went or why she smiled at her phone. They were strangers under the same roof. One evening, Daniel stood in the doorway. "You've changed." Mara looked up. "You noticed?" He frowned. "Where are you going these days?" She shrugged. "Out." "Do you even care what's happening to us?" She stared at him. "Do you?" His silence said everything. That night they argued. The kind of fight where nothing is solved, just exposed. Words thrown like knives. Regret hanging in the air. Eventually, they fell asleep on opposite sides of the bed, miles apart. A few weeks later, Mara returned home to find Daniel sitting in the dark. "She left me," he said. "Sophie." He nodded. "Took everything. Said she didn't sign up for a broken man." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Now you know how it feels." "I miss you," he whispered. "I don't believe you." He reached for her. She stepped back. "It's too late. I want to fix us." "I don't." Daniel stared at her. "You're really done?" "Yes." Mara packed her things. Called Elias. "Ready?" he asked. "More than ever." She moved in with him that weekend. They laughed, danced in the kitchen, kissed under starlight. And slowly she built a life of warmth, not just with Elias, but within herself. She learned how to be soft again without being weak, and to love without losing herself. Daniel stayed in the house, alone, haunted by memories, by the silence he had created. But Mara? She finally learned that letting go wasn't the end. It was the beginning. And she smiled, even in the bathroom mirror, even without makeup. Especially then, because now she was hers.
Please like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest videos.